Hi, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar. I'm going to give everyone a few minutes to hop in, and then I'll go over some housekeeping items and we'll get started. I know it can take a minute or two for people to get connected to Zoom, especially if it's not your typical platform that you use. So I'm just going to let everyone join. All right, I think we're probably at a good level now. And the first slide is going to be housekeeping. So people will still be streaming in. But my name is Melissa Katsky-Berry. I'm the Director of Strategic Accounts here at Polite Mail. And today's webinar is going to cover our internal communication benchmark report for 2025. A few housekeeping items before we get started. This session is being recorded and you will receive a copy of the recording after the presentation. You'll also receive a copy of the benchmark report and our guide to getting started with benchmarking. Your microphones are muted, but you can use the Q&A function in Zoom to ask questions, and please ask questions as they come up for you throughout this presentation. I'm going to take a pause midway through the presentation and then, of course, at the end of the presentation to answer your questions. So if you've been a client of Polite Mail or following Polite Mail for some time, you'll know that for the last 5 years, we've been putting together this benchmark data, and we've gotten a lot of requests to walk people through it and help them understand what they're looking at in the report. So let's start with how the benchmark report data is collected. So where does this data come from? 4.8 billion internal emails sent to 12 million employees worldwide. So that's a lot of data. And as Polite Mail has grown, we've gotten more data to work with. We also have about 20% of our customers with on-premise servers. So that data isn't included here. This is only looking at our cloud service customers on an anonymized aggregated basis. Our customer base is broad, so we're able to get a good sample size. And Polite Mail includes a diverse range of recipients across the 10 major S&P industries to provide robust data points. If you look at that map on the bottom right, you'll see that we get data from a nice range of geographies as well. So Polite Mail is used all over the world. And the benchmark report is showing emails sent over the past 3 years with comparisons from year to year. We've isolated on this chart what types of emails companies are sending. So you can see, probably not surprisingly, that news and newsletters are the most common emails that our clients send out. But you have events and meeting announcements and health, wellness, and benefits coming in close to each other in that second place position. And promotion and recognition emails are also very popular to send. So we're looking at all of these different types of emails in the benchmark report. And everyone, including leadership, wants to know how they compare to their peer group. For example, if you see that you have a 75% open rate, that doesn't mean much standing alone. But if you see that the benchmark average for your industry is 65%, you can show leadership that your open rate is above average and above, those peers in your same industry. You'll see on this chart here, out of our clients, tech is the most well-represented industry, but there's a pretty even distribution across other industries, including healthcare, consumer, and financials. Polite Mail also provides analysis for 7 distribution group segments. This was based on customer requests to compare to companies of similar sizes. Generally speaking, the smaller the audience, the higher level of engagement you'll receive. You can see that the 1 to 5,000 section is the most prevalent. So even if you're a large company, you can break out your sends into smaller lists to get higher engagement. And we segmented the benchmark data on the report for each of these list sizes as well as for each industry segment. We break our metrics down into reach, frequency, read, and engagement. Reach is the percent of the audience that have opened the message and paid attention to it. So there's a minimum time threshold that they have to hit. If the recipient just scrolls through their inbox, just marking messages as read, this won't count towards the email reach. And list accuracy can have a large impact on your total reach. If you have old email addresses or conference rooms or general mailboxes on your lists, you'll have a lower reach. And other factors which impact reach are the from address, the subject line of the email, send timing, and preview content. So preview content is what's shown in that preview panel in your Outlook inbox. And we go over how to optimize these factors in the upcoming best practices guide. Each section of the benchmark report will have data stories like this one from the analysis. This is fairly self-explanatory, and the point is that you should be able to read the story and it tells you about the average email use with your employees. So in this example, we're explaining that communications teams send an average of 26 emails a month with an average reach of 64%, and 11% will ignore the message. You can expect to get the attention of 53% of your total audience that you sent to, and 82% of the recipients who actually opened the message. From there, we present the data in a dashboard view. PoliteMail provides an analysis of all 10 industry sectors in areas of reach, readership, frequency, and engagement. So I'm going to step through and explain what the charts are to help you better understand. And recently in the report, we've normalized the data by 1,000 employees. So no matter how many customers we have, the data will be represented on a 1,000 employee basis. So it's more of a direct comparison between companies of all sizes. And if you look at this chart here, the left side of the chart is the volume of emails sent. So you can see that from 2022 to 2024, the volume has gone down for total emails sent, opened, and ignored. At the top of the report, we show percent comparisons. So year over year, 2023 to 2024, we're down 9% in total sent volume, and that's down 16% from 2022. We track the difference between mobile and desktop opens in the top right. One thing we've been seeing recently is an increase in mobile opens, and this is still going up. So it's up 11% from 2022, while desktop opens have gone down consistently. The donut charts on the right show the key metrics, and you'll see that PoliteMail goes beyond just basic open rate. So an open counts when any individual downloads the content of the message, regardless of time spent on the message. Ignores count any individual who opened the message but spent less than 3 seconds reading the message. And attention rate combines those two metrics. So it counts when the message is opened and the individual does more than ignore the email. So they spent more than 3 seconds reading the message. And this indicates to us that we caught their attention rather than them just scrolling through their inbox and marking messages as read. And we track attention rate 2 different ways. Audience attention rate, which is divided by total sent count, which means out of all the people you sent to, what percentage paid attention. And open attention rate, which is divided by total opens, which means if they saw the email, how many paid attention. And we did this change based on customer feedback. Then the benchmark report assigns grades to these values. And the idea here is grading on a curve. So there'll be a range of values, and to come up with the grades, we've divided those into 5 equally sized buckets. Each bucket is 20% of the total. So the same number of data points goes into each one. The grade is the threshold to reach that. So in this case, 87% open rate and above is a grade A. Anything below 57% is a grade S. And this is just another way to compare your rates and give your group, team, or a specific message a grade. And the benchmark report has these grading charts for the 5 different key metrics so you can see where you fall. And this is another way we broke down the data. When it comes to opens, ignores, and attention, if we break it down for every 100 employees, this is what you can expect on average. 61 paid attention, 9 ignored the email, and 30 didn't open. You'll also see these donut charts on the right throughout the benchmark report, and these are showing a year-over-year comparison. So the outer ring is 2024's rate, and the inner ring is 2023's rate. In this example, the average open rate for 2024 was 61%, and the average open rate for 2023 was 59%. The green or red arrows show the percentage change year over year. So in this example, the 2024 open rate was 3.3% higher than the 2023 open rate. And I'm going to pause for questions here. We have one question. Do you have a section that shows companies with a deskless worker population, manufacturing specifically? So yes, if we go back to our industries, we use the standard S&P industries. So we have like industrials or materials or utilities, depending on where your company would fall there. So we don't specifically break it down like desk workers versus non-desk workers, but it's safe to say that, most people in the materials industry probably have deskless workers, a lot less compared to like technology. So that's why we broke down the report based on industries, because you'll see the tech industry has a higher, readership, higher click-through rate, higher metrics typically than a industry that has a lot of deskless workers. So you can compare like to like. All right, I think this is where we left off. Yes, perfect. All right, and no other open questions. So I'm going to continue on, but keep those questions coming. So the next key metric that we show in the report is email frequency. PoliteMail defines frequency as how much and how often messages are sent. So for the report, volume is normalized on a per employee basis, calculated by taking the total sent per month and divided by the count of unique email addresses sent to that month. In this chart, the two bars are looking at volume in terms of both number of messages and number of minutes. Messages can vary in size, so you'll have more minutes than messages. And the idea is that you're sending a certain amount of content you want read, so that's what we're measuring. And from last year, our minutes volume is down 15%. The average messages per month is slightly up from last year, so 26 messages per month compared to 25 that you see on that right-hand side of the report. So it appears that communicators are sending more messages that are shorter in length, which goes along with our best practice recommendation to send shorter emails. The average message length is 1 minute and 23 seconds, and that's down 4% from 2023. Total minutes sent per employee per month is around 50 minutes, so that's the amount of content you'd be expecting employees to read on a monthly basis. Our next key metric is readership. So PoliteMail defines email readership as how much time recipients spend viewing the message. And we have different buckets that we group the audience into based on time spent reading the message. Those buckets are ignore, skim, read, and engaged read. A few ways to improve readership are with relevant preview content. So again, what shows in the preview panel in Outlook. Engaging layout, design, writing, and images within the body of the email, message length, and send timing. And we'll go into ways to improve readership in detail in that upcoming best practices guide. And then we do the data story, the grading, and the dashboard for each of the 5 key metrics. So this is the dashboard that you'll see for email readership. The gray area on the bar chart is how much content was sent, and the green is how many minutes were read. And these are totals, so total minutes sent and total minutes read. If all employees you sent to read all of the content, that you sent out, the entire bar would be green. In a year-over-year analysis, total minutes read is up 9%. So in general, communicators are sending a little less content, but the audience is reading more of it. And the top bar chart shows the skimmed read and engaged read rate changes over time. We talked about ignores earlier, which is when the recipient reads the message for less than 3 seconds. Skims are when the recipient reads more than 3 seconds, but less than 30% of the overall message length. And reads are when the recipient reads 30% or more of the overall message length. And then finally, engaged reads are when the recipient reads 50% or more of the overall message length. We also keep track of whether a recipient left the message open, which you can see in the bottom right of this chart here. And this is based on total time spent with the email as well. And you see that a small percentage of the time that left open happens, but it doesn't happen too often. And for each metric, you can see the specific calculation that we use to calculate that metric. Now, if we look at that on a per 100 employee basis again, you can see that some of those that paid attention to the email actually did read it. Of those 100 people, 46 people read and 21 that were paying attention were counted as a skim. So they didn't get past that 30% read threshold. Our next key metric is email engagement. Email engagement measures overall interaction with an email. And there are two ways you can engage with an email. You can read it and you can click on links. So this metric combines the percent of the content read with link clicks. If your content doesn't have any links, you can still have a high engagement rate if your audience reads most of the message. And factors that impact engagement are reading ease. So, how simple or complex is the language that you're using? The authenticity of the content. So, is it written by a person? Is it written by AI? Content relevancy and interest, presentation and message length, and the call to action and link of effectiveness. And the two ways we're looking at engagement are engaged reads and clicks. And this chart looks at both of those. Total volume by 1,000 employees of engaged readers and clickers. Compared year over year, engaged reads are down 5%. And then at the top, we also show this data from a desktop and mobile standpoint. So mobile clicks have also gone down, even though mobile opens have gone up. So we're finding that more people are opening their emails on their mobile devices, but they're less likely to click on links from there. We track percent read, which looks at read time based on what content was sent out. And on average, 81% of the content sent was read. Open engagement rate combines percent read and clicks. And click rate is a standard metric, the number of people who clicked at least one link based on the total audience sent to. We also show effective rate, which is a Politemail specific metric that calculates the number of people who clicked based on the total audience that actually opened the message. So this answers the question, how effective was the content at getting people to click? We also break this down just by clicks. So in this chart, the bars are volumes of links clicked, and the line, the darker orange line that you see is click rate, which is up a little bit in 2024 compared to 2023 overall. Volume of links, though, has gone down by nearly half. And this is pretty typical that we see higher click rates when total links go down. And it's similar to how we see higher read rates when message length decreases. So the shorter the message, the less number of links within the message, the higher read rate and the higher click rate you're going to receive. And that is a standard best practice that we see year over year, and we'll go over that more in that upcoming best practices guide. At the bottom of this dashboard, we compare how much was sent versus how much was clicked. And again, we sent less links in 2024, but more people are clicking. And factors that impact clicks are the positioning of the links within the email, the design formatting of those links. You don't want your links to be hidden and people not know that, that button is actually a link. The specific call to action that you're using, and overall email readership. And if we look again at our 100 employees, some of those readers have now turned into clickers. So this final 100 employee chart gives you your general breakdown of what you can expect for every 100 employees you send to based on our averages of interactions. So of the 46 who read, roughly half of those would be a read and half would be an engaged read, which we don't differentiate on the chart here, but you can assume that half of that 46 read would have spent more than 50% of that time to reading the message. So what can you do with this data? Comparing with your industry is a great thing to report on to leadership, whether you're ahead of your industry averages or behind. If you're behind, it could be a good opportunity to present an idea for change to your communication strategy. So this data can help in identifying areas of improvement and help you set attainable goals for improvement. If your open rate is 65% and the benchmark average is 75%, it might be a kind of unattainable goal to try and hit a 90% open rate, for example. And we've seen clients use this data to reduce their overall email overload for their employees. So for example, one of our clients was sending 2 emails every day of the week, including weekends when the COVID pandemic first began. And with Politemeal's metrics, they determined that most people weren't reading the evening or weekend editions of the newsletter. So they cut those out and they reduced their workload, creating efficiencies. We also see some great reports that our customers create using Power BI to break out KPIs by regions, lines of business, and any way that's relevant to you to share with leadership. And if you're a Politemail customer, we have an advanced analytics dashboard that you can connect via Excel or Power BI to take your metrics to the next level with more customization options. And you can reach out to your account manager for more information about that advanced analytics dashboards if you're interested. And at Politemail, we say that what gets measured gets managed. Email is still the tried and true source for communicating to employees despite proliferation of other channels. And year after year, when we conduct this survey, we find that email is still the #1 channel for disseminating information to employees, and not just by a small margin either, as you can see on this chart. So while there are many different communication platforms out there, especially in today's work from home culture that we live in, such as messaging apps, social networking tools, mobile apps, and virtual events, in the world of Zoom meetings, team meetings, and Slack channels, we've found that email still reigns supreme. And Politemail makes it easy to measure your internal communications to see how you stack up against other companies. And with Politemail, there are many different ways to take a look at what you're doing with your communications, see what's working, what's maybe not working, and make improvements based on the data. And we've seen that communicators who have used Politemail for more than 2 years have significantly improved all of their key metrics, including attention rate, engagement, readership, and click-through rate. So as I mentioned a few times throughout the presentation, our best practices guide based on the data found in the benchmark report will be available in September. And if you sign up for the best practices webinar, you'll get early access to this report. And we're sending out a link for that webinar in the follow-up email here. So this best practices guide will answer the questions of, is there a best time to send? What's the optimal content length? How many links should I include? And much, much more. All right, so now I see some questions have come in, so I'm going to answer those before we wrap things up. Okay, we have a question. What is minute length sent. Let me go back to that slide because I think I recall where that question popped up. There we go. So the average length of messages sent that we've seen is 1 minute and 23 seconds. And so with PoliteMail, we use that time and we use average expected time to read of your message to determine how many people are reading the message, how many are skimming. So that's where the like 30% of that overall message length is coming from. So let me know if that answered your question or not. And let me pull that Q&A screen back up because I saw we had a few more. I send a newsletter to a sales force of approximately 1,000 employees weekly. Is there a way to capture comparisons and data trends of just these newsletters to share adoption to my leaders? I can only compare 2, but I want more. Yes, we do have a multi-comparison feature in the tool. And I think our team that is on the call with me is typing an answer to you to direct you to more information of how you do that. But yes, you can compare more than 2 messages side by side with our multi-compare. You can also group multiple messages into a campaign report. So there are a lot of different ways that you can look at that data, and we'll give you some information about that. Do you think it's beneficial to have a graphic header to introduce an email or just takes up space making employees scroll before getting to the content? That is an excellent question. And that is something we cover in our benchmark report that we found it's actually better to have to not have a graphic header. Or if you do want a header image to have it kind of below the introduction text. And that is because the text that you see when the email is first opened is what shows in the preview panel. And that's what's going to get your audience's attention and get them to open the email and then read further. Yeah, based on our best practices, I would not have a graphic header, first thing in the email. If you want to, most people have the graphic header that says like the name of the newsletter. But what we recommend is either including the name of the newsletter in the subject line, so the audience is aware of what the newsletter is, or making the from email address the name of the newsletter. What is the easiest way to download this data into a single report? So I'm thinking you probably mean your PoliteMail data. You can, on your metrics grid, if you go to your results and messages, it will take you to a list of all of the messages that you've sent out. You can filter those messages if you'd like as well, and then you can export that entire view and get that in one report. And so if you reach out to our support team or your account manager, they can help you do that. And like I mentioned, you can also connect your PoliteMail data via Power BI or Excel with our advanced analytics dashboard and get all of that data in that report. And that is a report that the advanced analytics dashboard is a dashboard that we can send out to you and help you get connected with. And last question I see for now, unless anyone wants to throw any more questions in, is how would you recommend sending emails to a global audience, North America and Asia Pacific? Another great question that we will kind of go over in the benchmark report, because you want to make sure that everyone is getting the message at the ideal time of day for them to open it. If you have employees in North America and Asia Pacific, there is a huge time difference there. So if you send, at 9 a.m. in, not in like the East Coast of North America, that's going to be wildly different times for all of your employees around the world. So what we recommend doing is sending in the morning for your audience, based on where they're located. And if you are a Polite Mail user, you can schedule your send based on employee time zone. So that will automatically stagger the send for you based on where the employee is located, meaning you don't need to manually send out one email to, East Coast North America, one email to West Coast North America, one email to Asia Pacific. Polite Mail will automatically do that for you with that scheduled sends by time zone feature. Lisa or Samantha, if you could maybe chat the link to our knowledge base article about how to do that to this attendee, that would be awesome. It can help them out. But yes, would definitely recommend sending earlier in the day, earlier in the week, as you'll see in the benchmark report. And so you don't want to send to someone in the middle of the night, because that is going to negatively skew your metrics. Okay. And Taj, the comparison metrics only allows me to compare 2 newsletters. We will respond to that directly, but since you're a current client, it sounds to me like you are due for an upgrade to get the new feature that does have multi-comparison. So I think that's why you're only seeing the 2 options there. So we will help you get upgraded so that you can get access to that feature. And it looks like, let me go back to our presentation and make sure we covered everything. Perfect. So thank you so much for attending today. We will, like I said, send a follow-up email with the recording, some more information about the upcoming benchmark webinar and how you can get started with benchmarking your data. And if you are a Polite Mail customer and you have any further questions, please reach out to your account manager or our support team. And if you're not a Polite Mail customer, but you still have questions, feel free to respond to us and we'd be happy to help answer those. So again, thank you so much for attending today. And it was wonderful sharing this information with you all. Have a wonderful day.